Mitzvah 223, the Mitzvah of Sotah. It says in the Torah, Ish Ish, Kisishte Ishtoi, and that is if a woman will go astray and she will be suspected of infidelity. Says the Rambam there's a mitzvah to give her the waters to drink and that she's obligated to bring a sacrifice. As the Torah tells us that if she sinned, then the waters, which are called the mei hamorim, the bitter waters, will cause her stomach to explode and she will die. Similarly, the man who she had this relationship with will also explode wherever he finds himself. This is the Mitzvah of Sotah. Pshat, on a simple level, says Rashi, what does it mean a woman will go astray and commit adultery and infidelity? Says Rashi that the word sishta, to go astray, comes from the word, etymologically, comes from the word shtus. Shtus means folly and craziness. That a woman, an adulterer, does not commit a sin of adultery unless a spirit of craziness, a spirit of folly enters into their head. Because if they were normal, they would never do such a thing. Furthermore, once she drinks these waters in the Holy Temple, if in truth nothing happened, in truth she is clean, says the Torah, v'niksa v'nizra zara, what will happen is that she will be blessed with healthy children. Furthermore, if up until now she gave birth through tsa'ar, through pain and suffering, teled berevach, she will give birth now in a very expansive way, an easy way. The child will come out without any difficulty. This is the law of Sotah. What is the remez? What is the hint? So we know that God and the Jewish people are considered to be husband and wife. During the days of exile, the Jewish people are considered to be a sotah, and we're not allowed to return to our husband. And therefore, says the Torah, the only way that the woman is allowed to return to her husband is if she drinks from this water. How do we produce the water? It says in the Talmud, based on the words of the Torah, that we write out the entire portion of Sotah ink on parchment, and then the Kohen, the priest, erases the ink into the cup of water, and now she drinks from that ink. Even though the name of God is there, how can you erase the name of God? It's a prohibition. Yet God says, erase my name for the peace between husband and wife. That is how much and how dear it is to God that husband and wife live together b'shalom or b'shalva, with peace and harmony. And similarly here, the remez, the hint for the future is that during the days of exile, we tell Almighty God, in order to make peace between Almighty God and the Jewish people, we have to therefore erase a portion of the Torah, and that is God has to overlook the shortcomings of the Jewish people. The fact that, God forbid, Rahman al-Islam, there are some people that perhaps overlook some of the laws of the Torah. Even so, God should still love us and take us back and bring about the ultimate redemption. And when He will bring the Mashiach, then no doubt we will all do the entire Torah in its completion. And furthermore, the Rebbe has stated that Rabbanim, rabbis, should give a psak din, should make a verdict that already all the datelines for the coming of Mashiach have gone. Even tshuva, even repentance already was fulfilled. And therefore all that has to happen is that God needs to bring about the Mashiach. And by doing so, once again, the spouse, the wife, will be reunited with God. What is Drush? What is the homiletics? We are told that Baal Shemachal al Kanuyav Machal, that a husband, after he warns his wife and tells his wife, you're not allowed to be with this guy. I see you hang around this guy Shmerel too often. I don't like it. Please stop talking to him. Stop hanging out with him. So it says that if two witnesses, after this warning, testify that they saw her go together with Shmerel behind closed doors, the law is the husband is not allowed to take her back until she drinks from these waters. Halachically, the question is, can the husband be moichel? Can he forgive? And say, look, I take back my words and I forgive her. I want her back without her drinking the waters. So the law is, according to the Babylonian Talmud, it's too late. Once he warned her and two witnesses saw her going behind closed doors with Mr. Shmerel, the law is that she has to go through the entire routine. She has to go down to the temple, drink from the waters, and if she's clean and nothing happened, then of course she will survive and so will Shmerel. If, God forbid, they sinned, they will both blow up. This is the law of the Babylonian Talmud. The Jerusalem Talmud says that even after he warns her and she was together with this man, he has the opportunity to forgive her up until the time when the Megillah, this parchment, was written and was not yet erased. If the parchment was not yet erased, then he could still forgive her. Once the parchment was erased, we erase the name of God, it cannot be in vain. She has to go through with the process and drink the waters. The Rogachover Goin says that there's really no argument here between the Babylonian Talmud and the Jerusalem Talmud. And that is, the Jerusalem Talmud is talking about a situation that in reality we're not concerned about the woman together with the other man. Because who is the other man that the husband is jealous of? It is either the father of his wife, or she was in a room together with 100 men. In both of these cases, in both of these extreme cases, there is no concern, according to Torah, that anything is happening illegal. That the daughter sinned or the woman sinned with 100 men. It's only that the husband is a jealous person. And he created this false reality. Being, however, that he did warn her, the halacha is that she has to go through the process. But he could forgive her even after she goes to the Holy Temple and even after this parchment was written, as long as the parchment was not erased. This is the drush, this is the homiletics on this mitzvah. What is the soid? What is the esoteric? We find that the waters that she drinks, the water is taken from the kior, which was a basin of water in the temple. And in that water, the Kohen took from the earth of the Holy Temple and put from the earth of the Holy Temple into the water, and she drinks the water. Furthermore, she also has to bring a korban mincha. She has to bring a sacrifice of a meal offering. What was the meal offering? She had to bring flour that was made from barley flour. And in this mincha, they did not add oil and they did not add frankincense. Even though this was put into most other meal offerings, says the Torah, when it comes to this situation, she does not do it. Why? Number one is she sinned in the dark, and therefore she does not bring oil, which brings about light. Number two, she violated the ways of her mothers, of Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah. And our foremothers are represented by the levona, which is the frankincense that gives off a beautiful smell and fragrance. And therefore we do not put the levona into this meal offering. Furthermore, the Kohen takes from the earth of the ground of the Holy Temple. In Hebrew, Afar is Ayin Peiresh. Ayin is 70, which alludes to the 7 midos, the 7 attributes of the world of Tohu, the world of chaos, because her emotions went out of control. And Par Peiresh represents an ox, which equals 280, and 280 is the same gematria as the letters Menatzpach, are the 5 letters that are end letters in the Aleph base, and therefore this alludes to the idea of severity and gevura, that she is now in a state of divine judgment. Furthermore, the water that we use for the mehamorim, these bitter waters, comes from the wash basin or the laver in the Holy Temple, known as the kior. This kior was made out of the mares etzoivos, from the mirrors that the women brought and donated to the Holy Temple. Where did these mirrors come from? When the Jews were in Mitzrayim, in Egypt, and the husbands did not want to have children, because they said, number one, if it's a boy, it's going to get thrown into the Nile. Number two, if it's a girl, she's going to grow up in Egypt, in a place of slavery and hardship, and therefore he refused to have children. And says that the Talmud that the women went on self-sacrifice. They pulled out the husband from the workplace, and they brought the husbands into a cave, and there in the cave they positioned their mirrors. And they looked into the mirror, and they looked into their husband's eyes and said, look how beautiful we look together. And this would arouse the husband to be with his wife. When it came to the building of the temple, the women donated these mirrors to the temple. Moses refused to accept it. He said, no, these are vessels of vanity. I don't want it in the temple. God spoke to Moses and said, no, on the contrary, I want these mares etzoivos, I want these mirrors. They are precious, they are valuable, they are holy, because the women of Israel brought about the continuity of the Jewish people. I want these mirrors in the Holy Temple. So now comes these mirrors that represent the holiness and fidelity of the Jewish women in the land of Egypt, to come and testify to a woman who, God forbid, violated these laws of modesty. And furthermore, the word mares hatzoivos can also mean tzivos, which means the army of God. And here God and his army comes down to take revenge of such an individual that violated the holy matrimony of marriage. If, however, the woman is pure, says the Torah that v'niksa, v'nizra zara, she will give birth to children, and then these waters that were bitter waters become transformed into the waters of Mei Noach. In other words, we are familiar with the flood that took place and destroyed the entire world. They were Mei Mabul, they were waters of Mabul, which are waters of severity and destruction. However, Noach was in the Teva, he was in the ark, and he was spared. On the contrary, we are told, Mei Noach, that Noach brought about pleasure to the world. He brought about waters of peace and waters of pleasure. And therefore, here too, the waters are transformed from waters of Mabul, waters of judgment and severity and destruction and forceful brazenness. These waters are transformed to waters of delight and waters of pleasure and the waters of Noach. What does Chassidus say? Chassidus asks the question, it says in the Gemara that a woman is not sin unless a spirit of folly enters into her. And the Gemara concludes that the same is true with every person. That no Jew, no person sins unless nichnas boi ruach shtus, a spirit of folly and craziness enters into a Jew. Because really a Jew does not want to and cannot sever his relationship with God. How is it possible that a Jew can sin? It's only because the spirit of craziness, a spirit of folly enters into the person. Comes the question to mind, how is it that we derive a simple mitzvah, violating a simple mitzvah, from such a sin of infidelity and adultery? It's true, a woman who commits adultery, we say it's a spirit of folly, a spirit of craziness. But why is it that if a simple, everyday Jew breaks a law of Torah, we say it's considered to be a spirit of craziness, a spirit of folly? Chassidus says that the Torah is teaching us here how to realize and how to understand the relationship between man and God. That our relationship is not simply like a master to a servant, but rather like a husband to a wife. And similarly a wife to a husband. And therefore when it comes to marriage, which is about love and harmony and respect and faith, we realize that if the husband or the wife violates the marriage, even by simply neglecting to fulfill a simple request of the spouse, that already is considered to be and tantamount to adultery. Because if you truly love me, and if you truly care what I say, and if you truly care about my feelings, then you would do what I ask you. And therefore, if a Jew looks at his relationship with God, that is truly a marriage, that even the smallest violation of a mitzvah is tantamount to adultery, and even the smallest fulfillment of a mitzvah, like lighting the Shabbos candles and putting a mezuzah on one's door, is equivalent to true romantic love and intimacy and the ultimate unity that we will see and experience very soon with the coming of Mashiach speedily in our days.